Welcome to this very special program organized by Pallava Learning Systems. We have Ritinjali, Center for Escalation of Peace, collaborating with us. We have with us a very special and distinguished speaker, Venerable Geshe Lhakdor. And welcome to all the esteemed guests who have joined us today physically in the office. And for those of you online who have joined us on Zoom, welcome. Today's topic is simply titled Harmony of Head and Heart. And I think it's a very important discussion that we'll be having today. But before we do that, I would like to say a few words about Venerable Geshe Lhakdor. He is a very well-known and well-respected Buddhist philosopher. He has worked with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, as his English translator, and has also co-authored several books with him. In addition, Venerable Geshe Lhakdor, he is the chairman of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, and also the chairman of the Education Commission of the Central Tibetan Administration. And with all of these important roles, he also holds a professorship or honorary professorship at the University of British Columbia, also University of Delhi Department of Philosophy. I feel that all these important roles, also coupled with many, many years of experience, has shaped his perspective on life. And it is such an honor today that he'll be sharing his wisdom with us today. Cannot wait to hear what he has to say about his learning journey and his ongoing pursuit of becoming a better human being every single day. He is to us an embodiment of what we call at Pallava Learning System, a person of substance. Before I invite him to begin the talk, I would also like to urge our guests here, as well as online participants, to please ask questions, share your perspectives as well, so we can have an engaging, insightful dialogue. Without further ado, I will also request people online to post their questions, leave their comments in the chat box, so that we can get to them during the Q&A session. I think I'm talking a little too much, so before anything else, can I invite now Venerable Geshe Lhakdor to deliberate on the theme, harmony of head and heart.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, in his introduction, he spoke about my titles and achievements. These things are nothing. You get it when you become old. And I am actually really not here to give a talk. I'm here to meet you and to learn more from you through discussion, not answering your questions, right? Not so much about answering the questions. And I have my greatest respect to all of you who are and so many years in the education field, which means preparing the future generation, which is so important. And comparing to you, I'm not somebody who has any expertise or any training, especially or particularly in education. A little bit what I learned is through of course I did go to school and study a little bit, and then as I said, as you grow older, then you get different jobs and responsibilities. Through that way, you might gain some experience, some insight. Apart from that, I have nothing, zero. Shunyata. Right? But so I'm here really to learn more from you. And in fact, I was thinking, first thing that I should do is any of you, when you next time visit Dharamsala, please visit my small institute and share your experience on education. I'll arrange maybe, one talk or two talks, three talks, depending upon your time, which I do with many visiting scholars. That's so important. I've already asked her to come and teach the Institute of Performing Arts, especially the performing arts. She's an expert in it. So we have much, much, much more to learn from you than, share. So that's what I wanted to say. And the little bit that I'm talking and saying in the beginning, within this, I think 1 hour time, right? So I'll talk maybe 20, 30 minutes maximum, not more than that. Then we have some discussion. It's based on Buddhist philosophy. According to Buddhist philosophy, education is primarily rooted in three things: morality, concentration, and wisdom. Education on morality, education on concentration, education on wisdom. Out of these three, morality is said to be the ground, the breeding ground for all kinds of positive qualities. If you don't have this morality, that background, whatever new things you learn, it is unsure whether it will help the person or the society or harm the person or society. Because we have no shortage of smart, intelligent people, but they use their intelligence in the wrong way, right? So morality, in Hindi, it is called Shila, Shil. The word Shila comes from Shil. Shil means Shitalta, that means coolness, meaning that when you have this moral practice, which is primarily involved in three things. Morality is not like observing a discipline imposed upon you by some external agent and force. Morality basically means three things. One, restraining negative deeds, stealing, sexual misconduct, killing, so on and so forth, lying, all these things. Second, restraining negative deeds is good, but that's not enough. You also need to do the good things. So doing good things, that's second morality. And third is helping others, helping sentient beings. So this itself is really, really very, very profound. I mean, imagine this, if we have in India, for example, nobody doing anything negative. India is already a heaven. Just by that practice, one thing, restraining negative deeds. Negative deed means anything that harms, directly, indirectly harms other people. That's negative. Because just like you, just like others, just like you, nobody wants to be harmed. Nobody wants to suffer. So not doing anything like that. Now in this area, let us see how many people are harming others. Second is doing good things, which means helping others, developing loving kindness, compassion, patience, forgiveness, so many things. Then the purpose of all this is, at the end of the day, all your training, all your education must be directed towards helping others. And that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama summarizes his teaching, the Buddhist teaching, by saying, if possible, help others as much as you can. If not possible, at least refrain from harming others. इतना तो आप कर सकते हैं. So really, actually, there's no need to talk further. If we are able to implement these things, small things. So which clearly shows we are just talking, have a lot of knowledge here, but not implementing anything. Or not anything, I should not say, but not much. Due to many reasons. Due to prevailing circumstances, due to government influences, societal influences, whatever. So the thrust of today's modern education is towards making money. Education today has become just literacy, reading, writing, mathematics, and then get a job. That's it. Education, I think, is human flourishing. Based on your education, you should be able to live happily, peacefully, harmoniously, flourish, right? Education is learning how to deal with life's eventualities. That is also not there. So there's so many things we talk about. You're all experts in it. I'm just repeating what you already know. But it is important to repeat this. So the two together we confirm, yes, it is true. Right? So morality, therefore, morality is said to be like the ground, the breeding ground. Just like the ground, when there is earth, there is a ground, then we can plant trees, construct houses, human beings, animals walk up and down. Ground, imagine if there's no ground, everything will fall down, collapse, nothing is there. So morality is the most important thing in general, and especially in today's world. I use this word, the shield, shidalta, which means coolness. Coolness means if you had practiced these three concepts of morality that I explained, you are free from any regret. I have done my bit. I have no regret, nothing. Huh? You go to bed, sleep peacefully. As soon as you put your head on the pillow, खराटा मार के सो जाएंगे आप. Regret नहीं, पछतावा नहीं है. Your mind is cool. That's the meaning. When your mind is cool, nothing regret, nothing to worry, then you can concentrate. If you are angry, how can you concentrate? If you are disturbed, how can you concentrate? So the second education is we need to teach people how to concentrate. That has also become important, especially based on my experience in Tibetan schools. You know, I think maybe in the other schools also, something is wrong. I can't figure out. Something is wrong in the teaching system or the lessons, curriculums, method, whatever. Something is wrong because you teach children from like first class to 11, 12 class. After 12 years of study, many of these students don't even know how to write an application. Forget about dealing with the life's eventualities. What are we doing then? So therefore, focus means students need to focus, teachers need to focus, and make sure that they become good in at least few things. For their job also, they need to be expert in one thing. आजकल क्या हुआ? Jack of all trade, master of none. ये हो रहा है. That's the problem. In the Tibetan society, I've observed it. In other schools also, I think this is true. So they should be good at least in one thing, to help themselves to get a job and also to be able to help others through their expertise. Jack of all trade, that's not very useful. So focus on it. And concentration is said to be like, I think it was Plato or Aristotle, I think Plato, who said concentration is the source of success both in war and in peace. It's like a laser beam. When the rays of the light of the laser beam are scattered, it doesn't have the capacity to cut through steel. But when the rays of the light are focused, it can easily cut through steel. This is just a small example. Concentration. When you concentrate, even within a short period of time, you learn so many things precisely, clearly. But if your mind is distracted, so that's the point where I want to go, really distracted. Now look at the distraction we have today in this world. And now it's a well-known phenomenon that people are suffering from attention deficiency. And then with the mobile phone and all these gadgets and the malls and the surroundings, the noise, you know. And then with the so-called the useful science and technology, now especially the artificial intelligence, things like that. You know, I'm a little bit scared about the so-called science and technology. We are all running towards it. Maybe it's need of the time. I may be backward. I don't know much about science and technology, but I'm a little bit scared. Because even in those, old days when there was not much of this science and technology, anything like that, still the Buddha used to teach, don't get distracted. You will miss the point. You will waste your life. Now, so today, it looks like the whole environment is saying, come here, buy me. Everything is for sale. And to sell anything, they make everything so attractive, people just get lost. Now with this artificial intelligence, so again, big distraction. I'm not saying there's no advantage, anything like that. There may be a lot of advantages also. But we go there, and then the point that I'm making is we go so much outward. Within yourself, within your mind, you're khali, you're empty. That's what is happening today. And we witnessed this very clearly during the COVID-19 experience. During the COVID-19, India, because of certain situations, we took wrong steps, so we suffered much, but otherwise we were doing very well. But in many so-called developed countries, many people even committed suicide. Why? Because young people, when the COVID was not there, Young people always go out for dinner, for lunch, socialization, boyfriend, girlfriend, everything outside, mall, shopping, like that. And then suddenly you are asked to confine yourself, stay within yourself, lockdown. You don't know how to stay alone. That is the problem today. You don't know how to live with others, don't know how to live alone. So at the end of the day, we need to learn to learn to, know how to live alone. We came alone in this world, going to die alone. In between, kya hangama kar raha? Really, it's a very sad situation. So because if you are to deal with any problem, any difficulty, unless you have the inner resources to pull out, you will not be able to deal with any of these problems, especially the problems coming with the science and technology. And somebody has clearly mentioned that, for example, if you ask the question, what should be the system of education in 2050? Some people may be planning, but according to this writer says it will be very difficult to plan now. Because things are changing at such a great high speed, you have no idea what will happen in 2050. And the changes are so drastic that if you don't have any of these inner resources like love, patience, compassion, if you don't have this, you will be completely mesmerized. You will be shocked. Your jobs that you are having will be lost. You will not be able to embrace the new situation, and you don't have anything inside. So therefore, what I'm saying is, it's not just the Buddhist teaching or any religious teaching, but unless we have these inner resources, we'll not be able to solve any problem. So the point that I'm making is, in the education system, the most important thing is helping students develop this inner resources, loving kindness, compassion, concern for others. For example, right now, if you look at any political system, the political leaders have no concern, no compassion for the well-being of the people. दिल से नहीं है, मुंह से बोल रहा है ये करेगा वो करेगा, दिल से नहीं, कुछ नहीं, there's nothing. When people have no concern for the real concern for your country, for your people, how are they going to guide you? How are they going to lead you? So the leaders, be it the leader of the country, leader of the school, leader of the family, if they don't have this genuine sense of responsibility and love and compassion for those people who they look after, how are you going to bring them forward? Impossible. Very impossible. So therefore, it is really important to instill this inner qualities. And that's why I'm saying India actually did much better than many of the developed countries during the COVID, generally speaking. Because the people thought, oh, India will be now big mess because of its huge population, poverty, and things like that. But people had lived with problem, difficulty, so they know a little bit how to struggle, you see. So that way they did it a little bit better. So from that also we can learn how to, with this inner resource, how to deal with challenges and problems in life. Education, as I said, is to deal with the life's eventualities. That's really, really important, right? So therefore, concentration to achieve something, whatever it is important. And then third is wisdom. Wisdom means the capacity to analyze what is good for you, what is good for others, what is good temporarily, what is good in the long run. The capacity to think for yourself. As we were discussing, before this meeting in the other room, teachers teaching students how to think. वो नहीं है आजकल, thinking नहीं. We are simply like running after demagogues, people who make great speeches. We just run after them. We just follow gossip. We just follow rumors. We have no capacity to see it and think and decide. ये सही है कि नहीं है? वो नहीं है. It's very dangerous. So therefore, I chose this topic today, harmony of head and heart. The head means capacity to analyze and judge. When I talk about harmony of head and heart, I'm really talking about some of the important features of human being. So in the education system also, I really feel it's important to teach what it means to be a human being. What are the distinctive features by which we are distinguished from animals? Now, if there, for example, now there are many, but if I highlight some of them, one is this capacity to judge and analyze and think, make long-term vision. Animals don't have that. Even if they have very limited, they don't. Then second is language, speech. This language, the special human capacity to talk and share one's thoughts and emotions, is very unique. So that primarily means, for me, that primarily means when there is a difficulty, there is a disagreement, there's a problem, then use this beautiful language, sit down and talk, have dialogue and negotiation. We are not like tigers and lions. If it is a disagreement, conflict between tiger and lion, they can't say, let us sit down and talk and have a dialogue to solve the problem. The only thing they can do is use their physical power, bounce upon each other and tear each other apart. We are doing like that. We should not do that. We have this language. Okay, sorry, what is the problem? Let us talk, please. You can solve it. I myself try to do it on a very small level, and you can solve it. How do you? Then the human feature is this long arm. It's for hugging. Nice fingers for shaking hand. Not for hitting. If it is for hitting, then these fingers should not be there. We should have just a fist so that if we quickly hit. Then the teeth also. We do eat meat, but we are not carnivores. With using teeth, we try to kill other animals. Forget about killing other animals. All our teeth will fall out. Then our nails also. Good for scratching, but not for killing other animals. We are not like hogs and things like that. So if the point that I'm making is, if you look at our physical posture, it's for kindness, it's for peace. If this is the case, then why human beings have become the most destructive animal species on this planet? This is because we have misused our human intelligence. The greatest power that we have is human intelligence. And this human intelligence got corrupted. This great human intelligence, now we are using it to make atom bombs. Today, the world is nearly, I don't know the exact number, nearly 20,000 atom bombs right now. Russia alone has over 6,000. America alone has over 5,000. Then plus many other countries. What are we doing? And the Buddhist teachings say, you don't need to kill people, they will die. This is Buddhist wisdom. So we need to get this wisdom. We are so fragile, so have so many problems. If you are unable to minimize the problem, why should you maximize the problem? Now look at some of the leaders in the world. Horrible. Right? So therefore, I don't know what to say, because we really need to have a mass movement. Say no to war, first of all. Things like that. So I'm talking big, small person talking big is maybe not good, but just sharing my thoughts. So without going too much further, as I said, harmony of head and heart, use your human intelligence. Don't just follow anything blindly. Nowadays, unfortunately, in many countries, blind faith is also promoted. Because majority of the people are stupid, ignorant, so they take advantage of that, and the blind faith is strengthened. So we need to teach children not to follow any blind faith. Use your senses, observe things. And that way scientific process is very good. I mean, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because if I have no love and no compassion for you, who is sitting in front of me and breathing and living, then I say, I believe in somebody called God or Buddha somewhere up. Isn't this hypocrisy? For me, this is hypocrisy. This is not denying God, this is not denying Buddha, but okay, they may be there, but that's not your issue. Your issue is deal nicely with these people who you are seeing right in front. Now, in the name of this unseen force, you don't hesitate to kill others. What is this? right? So therefore, have this capacity to judge, analyze, supported by compassion, feeling for others' well-being. And when we talk about helping others, being good to others, it's not just self-sacrifice. It's actually good for you. The more you do good things for others, you will be rewarded. That's 100% sure. By nature, we have love, compassion. We are altruistic, right? So you need to do that. And then if you do that, even at the time when you die also, you will be very happy and live the full life. Death is just death of the body. There's no death to the mind. Nothing to worry, nothing to be concerned, right? So to conclude, what I'm saying is we have many problems in the world. Problems at the individual level, familial level, society level, national level, international level. There are so many problems. And these problems, most of these problems, including environmental degradation, pollution, these are all primarily created by human beings, not by lions and tigers and snakes. We need to make it very clear. This is because we have this inside, we have this unchecked greed. Or chahiye, or chahiye, or chahiye, or chahiye. और चाहिए कहां से? When you say और चाहिए, और चाहिए, और चाहिए, जो आपको चाहिए वो कहां से मिलेगा? Environment से तो मिलेगा ना, natural resources से मिलेगा ना. Natural resources are physical resources. They have limitation. So how can you have unlimited growth, the so-called GDP, whatever, NTV, whatever? Every country thinks we should develop every year. Impossible. Because the sources for this so-called development is physical, material, limited. So you cannot make unlimited development from limited resources. If you try to do that, you will end up killing the external natural resources, which we are now witnessing. Look at big cities like Delhi and other big cities, the amount of pollution, water pollution, air pollution. And who lives there in these big cities? The so-called intelligent human beings, not able to deal with these small problems. And then talking big. Let us go to the moon. Right? So I should now conclude, otherwise it will be endless talking. So in conclusion, I'm saying we have many problems, and the problems will not be solved by science. The problems will not solved by religion. The problem must be solved by human beings, himself and herself. Unless we change, unless human beings who is sitting to steer the machine forward, if that person's mind is lunatic, unbalanced, unhappy, will only have endless problems and difficulties. That's 100% sure. So therefore, in Buddhism, the word dharma means chu. Chu means change yourself. And if we play with this English word individual, which means indivisible part of the whole, the world. So the part of the bigger world doesn't change, how can the big world change? So we need to, think about that. Solution has to come from human being, himself or herself. So education must be directed towards that. Thank you very much.
Like you said, it's not a question that I want to ask, but just taking up on one of the last observations which you made, where you said most of us living in Delhi are living in a really polluted city where the water is polluted,
Yes.
the air is polluted, and yet we continue to thrive here, and there's not much that any of us are doing. I don't know, as individuals, there is something that we all need to get together and really put this forward. Otherwise, as a generation, definitely need to focus on this issue.
We need to focus. It is important, but it's not easy.
That's true.
One time I was attending a meeting in Delhi University, where His Holiness was visiting. And there was a senior Gandhian who was sitting next to me. So we were casually discussing about many of these things, pollution, things like that. And then I said, even if you think about the kachar, kya bolte hain, kachri, kachra, garbages. I said, if the government does something, it is so easy to remove the garbage. Why this is not happening? उसने क्या बोला? हम तो I was shocked. Guruji, इसमें भी राजनीति है बोल. I could not understand this, but later on I was understanding. कोई कुछ कर रहा तो फिर दूसरा इसको दखल करता है, ये सब चल रहा है, खींचतान हो रहा है. That's the thing. So therefore I was saying that unless people really have this genuine, compassionate motivation to do something, नहीं होगा. And another thing that I observed in Delhi, I'm not criticizing anybody, but I'm sharing my experience in Delhi. Is now all the roads and everything, lot of progress. She looks good. Now I don't know, the situation has improved, but just some years back, I came from the airport and suddenly there was a, rain downpour. Less than 1 hour, all the roads are flooded with water. So that means we can't make proper drainage. What are you talking about? Like big things, we talk so much, small things like. So all this we need to talk, not complaining anybody, but where it is going wrong somewhere, we need to rectify these things. So all this shows there's no care and concern. Be it the leader, be it the municipality, be it the one who is in charge of the drainage, concern nahi hai kuch bhi. When you see some problem there, you should be ready to go there and clean it, whoever you are. Or market में भी वही देखा कई बार, especially in the evening, you go there, you see so many people coming in fancy big cars, and then they buy the golgappa, whatever they eat, and then after eating, chatting, and then throw everything like this. Is India dustbin? वो नहीं है बहुत सारे लोगों, sense of responsibility नहीं. So if you do like this, then how can you make India great? And I'm consider myself Indian, okay? I'm not criticizing you, because there's no point, say India is great, you are great, and then close your eye with all the bad things. If you want to improve, you need to highlight those things. Once I was again coming from somewhere, then at the airport, there was a big line, and some foreigners were also there in front of me, and there's a big board, is the Incredible India, and the line was not hardly moving, and the people at the counter were gossiping. एक दो उधर पान खा रहा है करके ऐसे करके कर रहा था. So I saw that these foreigners nudging each other in Incredible India. So this mentality, we need to change if you really want to make India great. मैं आपके साथ में बोलता है, मैं बाहर नहीं बोलता है, मैं बाहर में इंडिया का गुण गाता है मैं. Really, honestly speaking, that's important, very important. I'm saying this because I'm concerned about this country. Yeah.
I just finished a very interesting book. It's called An Uncommon Love. It's by Chitra Panji Divakundu, and it's about the life of Narayan Murthy and Sudha Murthy. So I'd always known about Narayan Murthy being, an extremely successful entrepreneur who built Infosys and, created India's, story in the export of software services. And I would always just hear about his business accomplishments. But this book opened my eyes, and we've been talking about compassion. So I learned a lot more about Narayan Murthy through this book, that he believes in compassionate capitalism.
Exactly.
That's how he was referred to
Yes.
it. And it was so interesting to hear that he truly felt for the people who were working with him even when he started the organization. So he used to treat them like family. They would come and stay in his house, they would eat in his house. He gave them a lot of shareholding of his company, saying that, I need to, look after them. So it was a very interesting way of looking at things.
Exactly.
I need to teach them. I'm like their guru, I'm like their teacher, not like their boss.
Exactly.
So it was a very refreshing and inspiring way
Yes.
of looking at the corporate sector and
Yes.
how things happen
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And yeah, so it just kind of triggered the thought because we were talking about how compassion is necessary in all walks
In
of life.
Buddhism also,
Yeah.
for a true Buddhist practitioner, the so-called bodhisattvas or Buddhas, they are considered as servants of human beings, not the bosses of human beings. Servants. Servants doesn't mean anything negative. It means you have this great privilege in serving others. Purpose of life is to make, bring smile on the face of even one person by doing something, by serving. That should be there. All those teachings are there in India. But the problem is, again, implementation. So in education also, we need to focus more on implementation, practice, not just talking.
I think I'd like to bring back the focus on what you had said about hypocrisy.
Exactly.
Now, Narayan Murthy's story is very inspiring, I'm sure. But it's Narayan Murthy who just made a public statement about people in India should be working for 70 hours a week. That's not compassion. And he probably doesn't know that the bulk of Indian people who live on the streets and below the poverty line work for 24 hours a day.
Yes, exactly.
So I think one needs to also check the way we look at these inspiring stories. And our own Prime Minister is one of the most critical examples of doublespeak.
Yes, exactly.
So hypocrisy is, it's like we become comfortable with it. And that is what's worrying, I think.
Exactly.
That's really worrying.
Exactly.
That's a fabulous point. Very good point.
Yes, here. There.
Use it.
Hypocrisy is everywhere though. It's with the leaders, it's with the individuals as well. We always get concerned about comparison. It's not my job.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have appointed the leaders.
Yes.
They would do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Even in schools, right? There is tremendous comparison between whose job it is.
Exactly.
Right? Teachers, the intellectual, the storehouses and the revered ones, they would always compare, right? I haven't got these directions, why should I do it?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Or I'm getting stifled by the leadership, why should I do it? Right?
Exactly.
I mean, I would only do the basics.
Exactly.
Right? So I think one can only, my observation, right? One can only inquire that what is your own standing, what is on this matter, what is, where are you getting stifled by, right? Is it your own comparison, right? Or power politics that you're getting into, right? Because forever we are just putting the blame on the other.
Yeah. But the thing is, sometimes you need to, when you teach, you need to give concrete examples. For example, when you say, okay, this is not my given job, why should I do it? Things like that. Then bring that same situation in a family situation. Imagine family members who say, this is not my job, I should not do it. Father says the same thing, mother says the same thing. How can that family will be successful? Normally in the family, these things will be less. I'm not saying it is not there, it will be less. Why? Because there's much greater love, sense of responsibility and harmony and cohesiveness. And when you go out there, then you don't have this feeling of family in the society, in the school, or in the bigger world. We do use the word global family, but it is not there. It must be there. It is not there because you don't have that love for others. When you have this love for, how can you develop this love for others? You can develop this love for others not because you are going to get some, material benefit, but at least according to Buddhist teaching, you need to have this love and compassion for others by thinking that all these people who I know, who I don't know, they are all exactly like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Now, in my own case, I try my best to get whatever I want, I try my best. I may not be good in that, but I try my best to help myself. Right from the birth until you die, you take care of yourself. You cook for yourself, you wash your clothes, you wash your body, whatever. You try your best. Now, out of the blue, if somebody appears and says, I've seen you taking so much care about yourself. Why do you take so much care about yourself? What will be your answer? You can give different answers. But at the end of the day, the right answer will be because I want happiness to not want suffering. If you give answers like because I'm a professor or I'm a Geshe, this is also answer, but that's not the ultimate answer. Ultimate answer is I want happiness, do not want suffering. So in that case, you should also help others because they also want happiness, they do not want suffering. Then you will say, yeah, that is true, but she will take care of herself, I'll take care of myself. Now you can see you're thinking you're not connected to them. Then you need to tell them, no, you're connected to them also. Your happiness, your suffering is connected to them. Therefore, you may not be able to take as good care as you would take yourself, but you need to take care of others. At least mentally you should feel concern for their well-being. Concern for their well-being, because if you have this right understanding, then when you look at the eyes, faces of every individual, and I was in many of my talks recently, I was saying, because sometimes you need to, use these very powerful examples. I've been recently saying, look, counting from today, in 100 years, all this 8 billion human population living today are dead. I'm not saying they will be killed by atom bombs. All those things will be there, but even otherwise, this is law of nature. Now, why should we understand this? We should understand this because much of this problem that we have is because of not understanding the reality, because of not able to develop a larger perspective. Only confining with oneself, I. So this 8 billion human population is dead after 100 years, counting from today. That's in general. But then depending upon your own age, I will be dead in 10 years. Or maybe maximum, if I'm lucky, right now 70, so lucky, maybe 90 years, lucky, unlucky, I don't know, maybe maximum. Why should I think about this? I should think about this because now is the time, as a human being, you should do something that makes your life meaningful, that you can be happy about, that your family members will be happy about. Only eating, going to the toilet, sleeping, animals also do, right? So therefore, you really feel concerned. Okay, all these people I know, I don't know, but they're all there. They all have suffering. They all have problems. That's why we say never judge other people. This lady who looks so nice in front of me right now with makeup and nice clothes, but who knows how much she struggled to just get out of the bed. You see, so don't judge other people. Just develop this love and compassion to others. And once you develop this love and compassion, there will be this feeling of closeness. Discrimination will not be there. Abhi discrimination kitna kar raha hum log? Nature does not discriminate. If there is an earthquake, it will shake all of us. It will not say, I will spare only Geshe Lhakdor, not others. It will shake all of us. This is nature. That's what I'm saying. Living in accordance with the nature means nature doesn't make discrimination. When the sun shines, it doesn't make discrimination. We make discrimination. You are this religion, you are that religion, you are black, you are white, you are man, you are women, you are poor, you are rich, So all these stupid things we need to do away with. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
One things that
Wait.
as a teacher and as a mother,
It's been bothering me for many years. Many years ago, there was a boy who was killed in a school,
Yeah.
and he was killed by another boy because of a PTM or something coming the next day, and he thought the school will close. And after that, since then, I've been thinking and I've been talking to children all the time. There is this pent up aggression, resentment, anger, which is there across age groups. I mean, if you're on the road, the honking, you see the road rage, you even turn at a person on the road and you can see the anger in their eyes. There's violence. It's palpable. You can feel the violence and the aggression.
Yeah.
And you see that in a fist fight with children in the field. You see that in competition in the classrooms, and you see that in adults. Like he spoke about, this is not my job. Where are we leading, and what is it that we are not doing? That I just see a rise in this, and it's worrying because when you talk to children, you see that. I don't know the best way to put it in Hindi is कि मन इतना शांत है, अस्थिर है कि वो स्थिरता लाने के लिए पता नहीं क्या
That's what I was saying. Unless we have proper system of education where these moral questions are taught, then we will get this kind of people. Angry, upset, suffering from depression, suffering from loneliness, suffering from low self-esteem. This is a product of our education. Many years back, I was invited to give a talk. I was visiting Mumbai. I was invited to give a talk in a very good school. Pay a lot of fees in a year. Very good school, all English-speaking young boys and girls. So when I entered that school, I felt myself a little bit clumsy, in this clumsy, ugly looking, somebody who came from extraterrestrial, something like that. So I really hesitated whether they'll listen to me or not. And when I started saying something like, as I was saying here, you can't imagine. These young boys and girls listened to me as if I was telling a very moving story, clearly showing that these are not taught in the school at all. Similarly, once I was put up in that Vancouver, British Columbia University for 1 month. So I was there for 1 month and people are just looking, a little bit at me. Nobody dares to come to me, ask questions. So around the end of my stay, some students pulled their courage and came to me, can you give a talk and say something about you? I said, okay. Then they said, what should be your talk, topic of your talk? I said, topic of my talk will be shock therapy. Yes. Then on the day of my talk, around 30 or so students turned up. Then I said, what I'm going to say today will be shocking to you because you are only imagining good things, I'll finish my school, get a job, get a beautiful girl or boy and get married and buy a car and build a house and have this and swimming pool and, things like that. But life is not just like that. You're bound to come, encounter many problems, ups and downs in life. So you need to think about these realities, aging, sickness, death, separation, all these things, realities you need to think. And then you need to think, what are the means to deal with these problems, these challenges that we encounter in our life? So if you think about this, it may be a little bit shocking right now, but at the end of the day, it will be therapeutic. So these things are not taught, unfortunately. So it is important to teach them. Like, for example, as you said, like anger. You need to know. I was reading a book published in America where it says, just because of anger, America loses billions of dollars in a year. It's not just talking about religious practice. In terms of your own, life, in terms of the, economical state of the country also, billions of dollars. Because of anger, there is a fighting, there's a killing, there's a road rage, there is a shooting. See? So when we talk about imbibing ourselves with these inner qualities, we are not talking about like feel-good practices, that you do this, you'll go to heaven, and the gods and the celestial damsels are waiting there to welcome you. We are not talking about this. We are saying it's good for you, it's good for the success of your family, it's good for the success of your nation. Like small, Dharamsala, because of His Holiness is there, some Tibetans are there. We have some kind of, I'm not saying we are special, but we have some kind of value system. So many people are coming there to get that, to get it right. So therefore, it's important to teach them. Just specifically, not just from religious point of view, but practical point of view, how much damage, for example, anger does. Anger makes you ugly, first of all. Nobody wants to become ugly. We all decorate ourselves, boys and girls, use cosmetics, don our hair and make sure your collar is upright or whatever, right? Then after all this donning, you just get angry. You don't look beautiful. When you do this performance, do you get angry and perform? If it's a different scene, maybe. Otherwise, normally you're found smiling, things like that. Then anger increases blood pressure, 100% sure. And the worst thing is when you get angry, you become mad. You won't become mad. To be mad means when you have no idea what you're saying, what you're talking, what you're doing, then we call that person mad person. That is exactly what you become when you get angry. So you want to become mad? So these things can be taught with practical examples, how bad it is for yourself. So a lot of studies have done in Harvard University, books have been written, journals have been written about, they did like many years of research, how important these inner qualities are. So we need to teach these values.
In addition to this, it seems to me that it wasn't there so much when I was in school, but it seemed to have developed in the last decades, is that we mollycoddle our children, that we cannot teach them, or we do not teach them how to deal with the realities of the world. And we actually don't even tell them, we don't even say no. We don't tell them they're doing something wrong. And schools are given, teachers are given in some schools 100 words of appreciation to use to encourage a child, which for me seems like madness, because the child needs to see what they're doing and they need to face reality. But why is it that we feel fearful of being truthful and honest with the child? It's sort of the dial from being corporal punishment, where we would, beat the children, has gone the other way, which is lost the plot somehow. We've missed something so vital.
Exactly.
How can we balance this back?
This reminds me of what Jalavana Vedya, a very famous theatre, recently passed away. She used to say, because they used to have these summer workshops for children,
And she used to always say that, the problem today is not that children are not creative.
Exactly.
The problem is that they are not disciplined.
Exactly.
That they just, and I think our school system has absolutely no space, no time for helping children to be in touch with themselves.
Exactly.
And we don't even do that for our teachers. So all the time, as you said, outward looking. So it's either for pleasure or for even justifying our own behaviors. It's crazy. There's just no space for self-reflection. And that is a very huge thing that's missing. So, that's what I meant when I said a cold sort of science tends to look at everything outside, because for scientists, reality is outside ourselves. But the truth is that there's reality within.
Yes.
And that needs to be looked at. That needs to be understood.
Exactly.
So inner reflection, I think, is sorely missing from all our education spaces, whether formal or informal, and theater is probably the most powerful medium that enables that.
Yes.
And we've tried to do that in our teacher education program, and we've got some wonderful results as a result of that.
I think the response to a stimulus also is now so extreme. So I mean, I deal with parents every day. So if the child has lost 20 rupees, they go for lodging and IRs. And children will fight, they will fall down, they will get hurt. But then there are these whole policies which should be there, for safety. I keep telling them they don't run enough, and therefore they don't know how to, how to fall, and they don't know how to save themselves. And it's so tough to explain that, and the response is so over the top.
So I have a theory as to why this has happened, and I may be wrong. But I think that women are working now more and more. And women carry the guilt. Men don't. So women carry the guilt of not being home enough for their children. So there's this enormous overcompensation to, it is a proven fact by researchers that parents are actually spending more time with children than they did generations ago. Physical time, they're driving them to classes, they're picking them up, they're having their me time, but it's actually not working. And we're not stopping to see that the child needs their own time away from the parents. And so it's not only education, but it's the family social structure that has created these things which we're not reflecting back on ourselves to see who are we being. I mean, I know that I had also peer pressure from parents, how I behave with my son, and it was like, oh my God, I must put him in this class, what? And it's, one has to constantly stop, I think.
And COVID was really bad, because when there was online teaching, parents were not only with them at home, but also inside their classrooms. So suddenly that part of the child which was private and was alone in the classroom, where she behaved the way she, saw herself as, parents just saw that part. And so then parents who would chip in between and say, she knows the answer, she's not telling you. And and so the helicopter parents became, and children just lost, and so many children are coming with anxiety now, post-COVID, because now the parents have sort of, in a way they've seen through them, so to say, because that was their own space. They came to school, they did summer stay, nobody comes to school to study, social interactions. That's terrible, I think, for children. The worst hit for children.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my 2 bits to your comments. One was when you mentioned about parents doing a lot more for the child, driving them here, there. Basically, it has been proved that it's not about what you instill in the child. It's about what the environment instills in the child, including their genes. So telling a child has no effect on the purpose of education. But the environment that you put him into, whether it is through travel or where you live, or the colony you're in, or the kind of friends they pick up from school, that has a much more important transformative quality for the child. The second point that you mentioned about overcompensation and why we are praising the child and why has that, of course, in America, as you know, is the standard bearer of that kind of parenting. But it's also a much larger picture of capitalism versus socialism. In the other kind of societies that we have generated, whether it's a welfare state or socialist or communist communities, or communities based on tribal and other affiliations, the society is more important than the GPA or the per capita income. Whereas in capitalist societies, it is the income the future citizen will generate that is the driving force in educational policies. So in America, where the driving force in educational policies is how much is that child going to contribute to the general kitty of the country that creates the kind of education you want. And that is a society that is based on creativity. For every Elon Musk, for every Bill Gates, it's always America that has contributed to the highest GPA contribution in that country. So they don't care whether 99% of the student body falls under the, whatever you may say, table or whatever you may say, or goes to the sink. As long as the one person created will transform the economics of that country. So you are looking at it through the prism of welfare, socialism, what you can, like you have in England, you have the health schemes, etc. But America is looking at it. The policymakers are looking at it. How do we catch that one genius? And that one genius only flowers with this kind of parenting. So they are looking to find the genius in that one child that will create Microsoft or XYZ. So this is just an addendum to what you have said, and to give you a kind of a picture, because I have 5 granddaughters being raised in the US, and I have quite deeply experienced this.
I think, Geshe, we do have a question online from one of the people on Zoom. The question is, grief comes in different degrees, and you have talked about how do we deal with life's eventuality. So Sudarshan wants to know, in everyone's life, there comes a time when there is immense grief, there's utmost grief. So how do we deal with that? And how do we ensure that we are able to overcome it for good inner peace and a healthy life after that grief?
Now, as I was saying, all problems, including grief, comes because of our not having larger perspective of the law of nature and life. When we live with our family members and close friends, and especially the person you love, you think, I will live with this person forever. Misplaced understanding. So right in the beginning, you should have this idea that I don't know when it's going to die. I don't know when I'm going to die. Now today, if you say something like this, फिर क्या बोलता है वो लोग? ऐसे अशुभ शब्द मत बोलो. You don't want to listen to the real story. ये अशुभ नहीं है, reality है. So if you are somebody who has this understanding right from the beginning, actually you will live your life much more harmoniously, much more better, because now I don't know when he's going to die. So therefore, right now, when we are living together, I must be nice to my brother, sister, wife, husband, whatever. So when that person dies, you have no regret. When you were living together, you lived nicely. Now, hota kya hai? Ki when we are living together, after the honeymoon, okay? Before the honeymoon, you look nice. I love you, you love me, you're over the board, dancing on the cloud, things like that, right? And then after the honeymoon, gradually the familiarity breeds contempt. वो शुरू हो जाता है. Then you don't also talk nicely to each other, not so nice to each other. But then again, once that somebody, that person dies, then you shed your crocodile tear. रोना बिलखना दिखाने के लिए चाहिए सब कुछ आपको. I'm a little bit on the extreme side. I'm a little bit exaggerating, but what I'm saying is this is what we do normally. So the Buddha said, don't do anything useless. Do those things which is useful. Useful means when you're living together, live nicely. Let your husband, wife do good things so that after the death, his soul or mind doesn't go to a bad state. All those things you do. And when that person dies, you have nothing to regret. You accept, yes, meeting is parting. If you don't want parting, don't meet, don't marry. Things like that. So these are all a question of understanding the reality. That's why I give you the example of 8 billion human population, you see. And then the most important thing is, if grieving is a solution, then you grieve as long as you want. That's not solution. Yesterday in my talk, also people were talking, I was talking about happiness, unhappiness. Then they asked me, Geshe, are you really happy? I said, I'm happy. Then the question was followed by saying, when there's so much suffering around, how can you be happy? Then I said, my unhappiness will not solve their problem, so I'm happy. Because at least if I'm happy, I will be in a state to be able to extend my help and go around and help. You see, if your mind also disturbed, then see the other problems. How are you going to help others? You see. So that's the thing. So therefore, it's really, really important to understand law of nature. See everything from a larger perspective. Accept reality. Reality. Don't try to go against reality. With the so-called science and other things, we are trying to, in many ways, we are trying to go against reality. There was a time when people die, they die in your home, you look after them, they die, you know, sab kuch hota tha. Now when somebody is about to die, he's whisked away to a hospital and died there, nobody knows when he died, you see, kuch nahi hota. And then after the death, you put in the cremation ground and, you know, put some nice flowers. Ab kya karenge? Jab aadmi mar gaya to दो के फ्लावर करके वहां जाके रोगे ऐसे करता है हम लोग पता नहीं क्यों करता है ज्यादा फायदा नहीं and now we as you mentioned we don't want to see the ugly side. The cremation is also in the many so-called developed countries. The cremation is the place of cremation is somewhere where not everybody can see. It's a little bit hidden. It's treated as a taboo, ugly side. This is our mental attitude. But this is based on because we have no understanding of what death is. Death is not something to be scared about. It's something to be understood. Death and life are part of the two sides of the same coin. And the so-called death that we normally understand is not the death of the person, not the death of the mind. It's just the change of the body. And that change of the body actually takes place every day we are dying. Scientifically, I'm not just saying from Buddhist view. Every day we are dying. So much so they say that after every 7 years, you're completely different person. So there's this very interesting story of a criminal who was caught and imprisoned. And after 7 years, he said, I'm completely different person. Release me from the prison. So it's like that. So now in my case, I already undergone major death 7 times. 70 means. And then minor death, I'm dying every day. Change is taking place every day. And we are not cognizant of that. We are still thinking, I'm going to live forever. And the problem is, if you plan going to live forever, then you need more building, more cars, these things, you know. If you are prepared to die, then there will be contentment, there will be less greed. इतना ठीक है बैठने के लिए जगह है सोने के लिए कमरा है खाने के लिए खाना है इतना ठीक है बस और नहीं चाहिए अभी दुनिया क्या हो रहा और चाहिए और चाहिए और चाहिए that's the problem okay
okay Geshe, so I've been take this whole conversations, this whole discussions that we're having so far, I'm taking it from an entirely new, different perspective, not as a teacher, as a educator, but as someone who's consuming this education as a student. So during this ladder that I've gone through as a primary student, as a high school student, and now as a college student, I've come to realize that the mark of a true educationist, a mark of a true education, and someone who's consuming this education as a learner, as a student, comes from the fact that they understand themselves, they know themselves better, their individual self better. But something that has been bothering me so far is that the steps taken towards this understanding of self, I don't have a proper tip for someone who wants to start with this journey. So do you have any procedures or methods that can take you towards those journey of learning yourself better, to understand your individual self better?
Yeah, understanding, as I said, understanding not only individual self, but understanding the whole law of nature, understanding other people, and especially understanding the upheaval of emotions that you and other people are rocked all the time, understanding those things, then accordingly dealing with them. That's important, right? Now in life, if you really want to achieve a great transformation, the one thing that is really important is you should have integrity. If you don't have this sense of discipline, sense of integrity, then you will be tossed around by the, as already mentioned, by the power of the environment, you see. The problem that we are facing in giving all this value education system is, as you rightly mentioned, it's the environment. You see, parents find it difficult to teach children because of the environment. Child's mind is influenced by their by the mobile phone, the things that they watch on television, they discuss with their peers. They are influenced more by this overall prevalent situation. So therefore here, technology, science and technology, especially technology. Science, unfortunately, sometimes I think science is responsible for producing all this technology. Then once produced, they are hiding behind. They're simply making the technology available, do the business, let human beings play with the toy. And the scientists, the so-called scientists who have so much knowledge about the, degradation of environment, climate changes, all these things, they are not so forthcoming about all these data and issues. They are there, but not so much forthcoming. And what we have is technology, these gadgets in front of us. And the child mind is very malleable. Not only child, even grown-up people, we are driven to sensual objects. This is our weakness, including elder people. Something to see, something to smell, something to touch, 5, 6 sensual objects. Because of this attraction to the 5, 6 sensual objects, all these big malls and markets and shops and gadgets, they are there because of our demand. I want to see this, I want to touch this, I want to smell this, feel this. We are slave, we become slave to the 5, 6 senses. And when we let ourselves enslaved by these 5, 6 senses, there's no opportunity for the mind to play any role. So therefore, you are forever going outside. Inside, the house itself is dilapidating, dust collecting, cobwebs spreading around. क्योंकि घर में कोई नहीं है. अब तो हम लोग बोलता है ना हिंदी में खाली दिमाग शैतान का घर. वही हो रहा है. That's the problem. And especially this is quickly happening with the young people. Their mind is really want to play with these things. That is corporeal, that is material. Who will sit there and think about the invisible force, the mind, things like that. That's the problem, you see. So unless you be skillful in teaching constantly, they'll not understand it. Even grown-up people, in our daily life, we are more prone to the sensual objects than on the conduct. Who does the meditation? Who does the inner reflection? Very few. Because we are prone to only physical, material objects. Whereas in reality, what controls our life is the mind, not the senses, the mental consciousness. So very often I ask the question, who is your real boss? Then I tell them, oh, your real boss is not your husband, not your wife. It is your mind, not even prime minister, it is your mind. And this poor mind, we do talk about my mind is happy, not happy, but if you ask people, how can you really define this mind? Is it something there really, or you're just talking? Many people are not sure. You see? So of course, it is very much there. It's like the electric current. It is energy. It is very much there. And anything that is existent doesn't have to be a material existence. And we all know it is the mind which is telling us what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go. It's not your body. Body is just a slave. So therefore, the important role played by the mind has to be told. And how can you get long-lasting peace and happiness, harmony by fine-tuning your mind? तो आपके अंदर में है, बाहर से लेने का जरूरत नहीं. If you attune your mind, change your attitude a little bit, you will be happier. It's as simple as that, actually. The same person who is sitting in front of me, if I change my attitude a little bit and look a little bit, because of the change attitude, look a little bit like this, a little bit angry, he will be unhappy, I will be unhappy. As simple as that. And if I change that again a little bit and bring a little bit smile on my face, he will also respond with a little smile on his face. That's it, you see. So it's the mind which is playing the trick, which is the magician. And all this so-called scientific, technological, religious, philosophical things that we've achieved are all creations of human mind. So that's why I'm saying the problem is we forget this thing called mind and focusing more and more in technology, the concrete material things. And in the realm of science also, they are basically saying there's nothing called a mind separate from the brain. It is the brain which does the thinking. They have their reasons. But now it is found that just for one thinking, there's a lot of synchronicity, collaboration going on in the brain, but nobody knows why this collaboration is happening. So is it because there's something separate called mind? I mean, I'm not saying there is, but the thing is like that, you see. Once we had a meeting in a Mind Lab conference in Dharamsala. So there was a lot of discussion between His Holiness and some of the Tibetan teachers and scientists. The scientists were talking about, the brain which does the thinking. The Buddhist was talking about the mind which does the thinking. So a lot of discussion, heated discussion. Then during the tea break, I was sipping tea with few friends. And I told them I have good news. Then they said, Geshe, what is good news? I said, the good news is I don't care who does the thinking, the brain or the mind, but the good news is if you make an effort, you can change. That's the thing, you can change. Right? Okay. So did that answer? Yeah.
There are important questions. Okay, I'll just.
And Manju's here, and then we have one more question.
Yeah.
I think then we will want that.
I was thinking that,
You can't get Mike.
I think it could.
Okay.
So I was thinking that putting it all in the hands of education system or schools is actually wielding too much power in this whole thing. I mean, education experiences everywhere, every moment in the family, there are everywhere.
Exactly.
I think it's almost, it's about changing the purpose of schools and the education. It's more about educating everybody who's interacting with you.
Exactly.
Well, it's, so basically educating the parents and the teachers,
Exactly.
right? It's a lot of work on self.
Exactly.
So do you agree that we should all start to think our systems, I mean, the way we are structured in our schools?
Exactly. Yes, systemic. In C learning also we use the word systemic. Larger, especially younger, very young, children. Best source of education, especially morality, is parents. Not so much teachers. Parents, teachers, then whole society. They should play this role. That's why I was talking about having love and compassion in the society as a whole. When you find that love and care everywhere you go, you will get all these qualities very easily. But when you when that is not there, then you also start thinking, okay, I need to behave like this. इधर यहाँ नहीं चलता है, ऐसे करना पड़ता है. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but you mentioned about the desires that we have. हिंदी में उसके कहते हैं ईर्ष्या. जब ईर्ष्या पैदा होती है, and ईर्ष्या control में नहीं आता है, it goes beyond. So these desires that we have are also a manifestation of what is in the universe. It doesn't come from nowhere. As Buddhism says, everything is within and without. So that is the first thing. The second thing is, as far as I understand, certain streams of Buddhism believe that these earthly desires are basically a ladder to our own salvation. Without these earthly desires, our own, instinct or our own seeking spirit would not be there. So they have a positive impact on the human psyche, as well as what you have already said, because without the earthly desires, this universe as we know it would not exist. I wanted to have your comment on that.
Yeah, number one, the whole purpose of discussion is, do we want long-lasting peace and happiness or not? That's the question. If we want a long-lasting peace and happiness, then these emotions like anger, desire, jealousy, are they really useful for promoting that? That's the question. It's not so much whether it's universal or coming from there or not. The question is whether this, in Buddhism, we in fact use the word negative emotions. whether these negative emotions like anger, jealousy, attachment, so forth are useful for getting that. Yes, ephemeral pleasure, yes, you can get. Now we are talking about long-lasting happiness. When I use this word long-lasting happiness, I don't have any like Buddhist contention in mind, but I've asked this question in many places all over the world. In fact, when I start my teaching, I always ask, do you want happiness? Everybody says, I want happiness. Then I ask a second question by saying, for how many days you want happiness? And just as you're smiling, you know, people react like that. So by that, they are saying, basically, as far as happiness is concerned, we want it as long as possible. That is our inborn urge. Nothing to do with any particular religion. So now having understood that, then we need to ask the next relevant question is, if you really want that long-lasting happiness, from where do you think you are going to get that long-lasting happiness? From these earthly desires, attachment, anger, and so forth? You need to, I'm not saying yes or no, but you need to explore, at least from Buddhist viewpoint, no. From these negative emotions, you're not going to get that long-lasting happiness. It is there, very much there, but it is very much there doesn't mean it should be there forever. So the question is it really necessary? Then with the emotions like anger also, people say, oh, anger is needed, especially in today's society. Because they say this because they think if anger is not there, you will lose all your power and strength. That's not true. You can develop actually much more powerful energy strength than having anger. So these things has to be taught slowly and slowly. So that's important. Yeah. And then desire, when we have to be again very careful about the usage of English terms like desire. Normally we prefer using attachment than desire. When you use the word desire, there are good desire, bad desire. The desire to help others, the desire to become Buddha, these are good. Right? So again, you know, there are like positive and negative desire. Yeah.
Kishla, as you rightly mentioned, that it is self-reflection that we need in the contemporary world as human beings. But sir, in the contemporary world, we are being bombarded with constant influences from around us through social media and other processes. So my question is that I think that these influences also lead to a lack of personal agency, or in crude words, free will. And my question is simple, that how in this current state of the world, how can we regain or sort of develop that sense of personal agency and, you know, free will in order to achieve or walk the path of enlightenment? Thank you.
तो तभी तो मैंने बोला था इसमें हम लोगों को इंटीग्रिटी चाहिए, इंटीग्रिटी चाहिए. मैं अपने जिंदगी में दूसरों से थोड़ा अलग रहूंगा, मतलब जहां लोग गलत रास्ते पे जा रहे हैं मैं वहां नहीं जाऊंगा. You know, if you really want to go where most of the people are going, then the place is hell, where everybody is going. अभी हेल का जरूरत भी नहीं बोलता है क्योंकि हेल यहाँ ही है सब. This is a joke, you know. But what I'm really saying is थोड़ा integrity चाहिए, based on your conviction, study, understanding. ये गलत है. Once you know this is wrong, even if it is done by the majority of the people, you should have this courage to say no. This is how you become a leader, to help other people. You just keep on. That's why Martin Luther King, you know, freedom fighters like Martin Luther King, he said, I don't feel sad when I see bad people doing bad things. I feel sad when good people don't do anything, when they don't have the courage. So things are, in a way, very sad and deplorable, but in a way, it's not that sad. For example, Delhi, you know, in order to remove many of these problems, we highlight and talk about the bad things, but that doesn't mean it's only bad thing, nothing good is happening. For example, right now in Delhi, which is how many population? 20 million? Something like 20 million population. Right now, today, in Delhi, imagine how many people are killed. Maybe countable, including the farmer strike, even there, if you include all that, maybe countable, not much. How many people are nurtured in hospital? How many children are looked after the love and kindness of parents? Millions. And the problem is, people who do bad things, they are highlighted. There is a reason for that also. This is against human nature, so they are highlighted. And unfortunate thing is because they are constantly highlighted, came out in the newspaper, in the television, then we think everything is bad and horrible, incorrigible, you know. We don't highlight the good things. So we must highlight good things. In India also sometimes, I mean, I'm talking big again, you see. Don't just keep on showing the Bollywood, Hollywood, and then singing and dancing in cricket. Show many of these good things that India has. All these values, philosophies that India has, ये कहाँ है? किस channel में मिलता है? बहुत कम है. Especially in an understandable way. And then also the education, you know, many of you are so good in this. You have so much experience. आपका channel कहाँ है? नहीं है. That I think is, we should, you know, give this message that love is more predominant than wickedness. Then gradually people will also go that direction. I think, yeah. Okay.
We'll take one last question.
Okay. Believe in what? Free will. Of course, मैं धर्मशाला से यहाँ अपने ओर से आया. मुझे बुलाया, लेकिन यहाँ आना है नहीं आना है मैंने decide किया. Free will. And your question is important. It's not that easy as I'm presenting. It's a lot of questions are there. It is manipulated by God. It is manipulated by karma. You know, especially in Buddhism, you know, when you use the word karma, because of karma, the karma has no fatalistic notion. Karma means action. Action means not just action of the past life, action of what you did yesterday, what you did this morning. So because of your activities that you did in the past life, last year, last month, this morning, it influences you. And accordingly, you get a result. You take a step. So therefore, you are free. Then sometimes this is, sometimes because of this predominance of negative emotions, we do think we are not free. Right? But still, this does not mean you are not free. You have to assert your power to show that freedom. थोड़ा bold होना पड़ता है, क्योंकि थोड़ा bold करके कदम नहीं लेने से, then you are little bit conditioned by many things. You'll not be able to come out of it. ठीक है, बस.
I think that would be a really good time to stop here, and a very good kind of end point or a closing remark, that we do have to be bold. We should be taking responsibility for the changes that Geshe has talked about, not only in education, it seems, but in every facet of our lives, in our communities, in our families, in every facet, like I said. Thank you, Geshe. I think I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here when I say today's session has been very engaging and very insightful. So thank you so much for that. Sharing my personal opinion, I think for me, rethinking the purpose of life and what you talked about, morality, concentration, wisdom, what I found interesting is it aligns so much so with our own philosophy, Palaman learning systems. We have the 5 areas of development where we talk about spirituality. We have skills, processes, and watermarks, which I think is very aligned to morality, concentration, and wisdom. So thank you so much. And if any of you are interested in what I'm referring to, please write to us and we'll be more than delighted to share our book here already, but any more information. Thus, then I would like to thank our team members at PLS. We have Pujan, we have Thupten, our second chance voice who helped, and everyone here. I think we did a good job. So pat on our backs, and the whole entire process was seamless, if I might say so. And finally, thank you to our esteemed guest here who came and joined us in the office today. Those of you who are online, thank you for posing questions, engaging in discussions, and making this dialogue a very insightful one, as well as engaging. Like I always remark, and like I always maintain, the entire organization, your participation, your engagement is very, very important to all of us. And thank you once again for learning with Venerable. Thank you.